Hi, this is supposed to be the start of the video, so first of all, be careful. In this video, there's going to be actually not few, a lot of spoilers of Scott Pilgrim. I'm going to be talking it. It's not going to be a really long video because it's not necessary to make it too long, but still, I decided to make it because it's something I really like. And that's all. It's just a little thing and a little video I decided to make for these days so I can upload more and more content without having you guys to wait like 2 months until I upload again. But well, thank you so much. I hope you really liked the video. Hi, my name is Jeremy. I have always been a real fan of comics since a young age. I am not really a person that follows a chapter too much every time they go out. Sometimes people recommend me some of webtoons or others, but I normally try to keep reading them, but I don't finish them up since I really take my time to read them clearly once I have the time or I'm mentally prepared for that. One of the comics I saw but didn't read in its time was Scott Pilgrim. I watched the movie first, then the series that came last year, and then finally the comic. For some reason, I needed to read the comic at least 3 times because the first time I completely forgot a lot about details and I just wasn't putting enough attention to it because I decided to read it one night, all of the 6 volumes, and I didn't remember anything the next morning. So yep, it was a complete challenge for me to remember everything because I was actually doing it also because I wanted to do research for the video that you're seeing today. With all of these 3 different medias where we know Scott's story and his world that revolves around him, I can say that it's just pure amazing stuff. The whole story revolves around the guy named Scott Pilgrim. This guy basically starts off by saying that he has a band named Sex Babam with his friends and also a girl named Knives Chow, which there's a thing here because they're both dating, but Knives is 17 years old and Scott is 22 coming to 23 years old. She's a really nice girl and overall she really loves Scott, and all of his friends tell him that that's actually pretty weird considering he's not even worried about it, and they even tell her that she deserves better. She deserves way much better than just being with Scott. We also have another character named Wallace Wells, who is the best friend of Scott, and he lets him live in his apartment where everything is basically of him. He bought everything and he lets Scott stay until he can find his own house to just live in. After some time, Scott starts dreaming about a girl with pretty dyed hair and some rollerblades. Until one day, as he walks with Knives in a library, he sees her for the first time ever in real life. And to make sure she's not just a product of his head and something made out completely, he decides to go to a party made by one of his friends, Julie Powers, in which obviously Julie hates him so much because he has seen the person he is really, but he decides to just go in, and Julie just gives also hints about who the girl he has been dreaming about is, because she really does exist. Scott, after finally finds her, he realizes that that's the girl. He literally goes to her and she's just like this, and he's just with his bottle just like this, hey, do you like Sonic the Hedgehog? Or he only asked do you know Sonic the Hedgehog? And actually this iconic thing, the scene is just special from both the movie and the series. This did not happen in the comic. It was a complete story, and I am going to let you see here how it actually happened in the comic. And I think it was actually cool that they decided to change it, because most of the differences actually make the jokes even better or make Scott have more unique things as a character. So I'm really happy that they put it that as a joke actually. After a small talk, he decides to ask her if she's real, in which she only gets weirded out, and Scott walks away with all of his shame. After all of this, he knows her name is Ramona Flowers. Ramona Flowers delivers Netflix CDs to Scott, and he decides to ask her out on a date, in which things go great for both of them, and they end up sleeping together in Ramona's house, and it goes perfectly. After this and some other cool events, Ramona tells Scott that now he has to fight and defeat his 7 evil ex-boyfriend. With this said, you all have a small amount of resume to your power, so you know what's coming next. I already said that there is going to be a lot of other spoilers, and you can watch the video if you want to know a little bit more, or if you already watched all of the 3 media. But I'm just going to be giving a little bit of my opinion and just like what I really loved about the about all of these things. Actually, to start off, I want to talk about the original piece, the comic. The comic is the start and the canonic event. Scott learns about self-reflection and how to become a better person in his way to date Ramona. He starts off as being a complete mess of a person, starting off with dating a literal high schooler, then cheating on her with Ramona, and vice versa. He commits many mistakes that we learn in time, also with Kim, who is the drummer of the band Sex Bomb. We learn that in the past, Kim and Scott used to date but broke up when Scott moved away with his family to Toronto. We really don't have too much context or more information about how Kim felt when he moved away. We can only see that there are some panels of the comic in which we can see her like feeling bad and just like really sad about the situation, in which I really feel like, I mean, seeing someone you really loved move away can really move a lot of feelings in your heart. I think we can only guess as people that she was really sad and she actually really liked him, also because they also had a fight, because the only person Scott told that he was going to move away was Lisa Miller, another girl that actually really liked Scott too back in high school. We learned too about also one of the exes of Scott, N.B. Adams. She's one of the most famous singers in all of the universe of Scott Pilgrim, and to be honest, good for her. So we know that Scott, even being like the loser of the series, he has exes, and even though he really tried to be with Ambi and stay with her and he really supported her, things didn't go the way that he thought will be. For the lack of context, we also can know that people see sometimes Ambi as also like an enemy in part of Scott's story, in which I think it's like most 50-50, because there's not too many information about what really happened in their relationship. But one of the details that really marks the 50-50 is that Ambi Adams never told him that she had a relationship with actually one of Ramona's ex-boyfriends called Todd Ingram, since they were 11 years old. So yeah, makes sense. With the whole comic finished, I think my conclusion and my thoughts on it are that there are some things that aren't explained properly, like why did Ramona hair started to just like light and get bright out of a sudden whenever there was something that was triggering her in some way, or why there was sometimes that really Scott was behaving like he didn't know anything, and then the next page he was like, oh well, anyways, like ignoring completely the situation he was in. Or that scene where Ramona and Knives were fighting in a mall, which it was actually impressive. I love the art, I love the art style, like I love Ryan O'Malley for doing all of this. But this scene felt off for me, at least because there wasn't even a mention of it later on. It didn't add up to like more thing, it just stayed there like as a fight. But I'm glad that there was not even a mention of it later on, because after reading it and everything, I just think like I prefer them not to fight for who wins and gets the groomer. The thing I liked is how both Scott and Ramona got their own swords and powers when they realized that there was something going on with them and that they were trying to make it better, so they learned the lesson and start just becoming a better person overall. I think more it was as a personal shock to understand why they were doing it, and that also there were people who felt bad in any of the actions that both Ramona and Scott did to them. And they start to recognize it and talk it out, which actually didn't happen in Ramona's side with any of her exes. She only did speak with Roxy, and that was all. But even so, it ended up just being called a phase. This comes out better in the series, and we finally get to see Ramona in action, taking the time to know what happened in her relationships and what she can do to help them all. So let's go with the series. The series was a total spin of information for basically every fan. We all thought Scott was going to be in just having fun with Ramona, just like in the comic or the movie, but it ended up like leaving him and putting Ramona on a silver platter for all of us to see her actions and as a changed human. She goes into a personal mission where she tries to find who kidnapped Scott, as she sees the fight that happened while the band was live and he fought against Matthew Patel, her first ex-boyfriend, in which fight Scott dies. And in this case, she decides to start looking for hints on what happened, thinking that he wasn't dead, having a hope so big, like having a really big hope that she could just find him. Many details on characters such as Gideon, and we get to see the new him, letting every part of him being vulnerable with Julie powers, letting us know how he used to get bullied in school for being such a nerd and a geek, and then we find out how these things made him grow and change as who we knew and thought was Gordon Goose, who now is Julie's boyfriend. We get to see the past of Roxy too, a character that really hits me in a soft place. I think she's a big part of the whole story, and now we could see her as a character instead of just the, oh my god, you had a jury face? You were a lesbian? That's amazing. That's so hot for us, the guys in the male gaze. So, yeah. And she explains all the emotion she felt when Ramona left without any explanation after being with her for so long and building a relationship and trust. I think this was just like a whole train coming for her and hitting her on the face. I think that's why Roxy feels that way with Ramona. There's no more context to this, but even in the comic, we know that she really felt a connection with Ramona to the point of being really mad at her for only calling her a face. We also get to know Lucas and how he felt almost the same with Ramona, being secure that both of them were amazing and how she cared for him whenever he failed on skating, until she stopped and she started dating Todd Ingram. From Todd, we didn't knew much. He just gets with Wallace when they make a movie about Scott's life, and he ends up having the funny bone tickle, and MB breaks up with him because of this, which makes sense, of course. Like, yeah, I think it was needed actually. And we get the Katayanagi brothers, where also, again, not to make to be known too much, they didn't give us too much information in also the series, both the comic and both the movie. They just appeared and had a fight, and that was all mostly, but they were also a good detail, and they let us knew about how Ramona just like really moved them, because she thought, well, everyone is going to play with me in school because they think I'm just a small little girl and I don't know anything, and I am just like here to study, and that's all. So she just like uses this to grab them both and play with them and just mix all of the emotions they have. And even as brothers, like, come on, you're cheating on two persons at the same time who are brothers, who are related. Like, that was crazy actually of Ramona. In these circumstances and contexts, we can think of Ramona as a person who can grab a gum she likes, she can chew it until all the flavor goes out, and then she spills it out on the garbage can and leaves it off forever. And then she can go and grab another one, and the cycle just goes again and again and again and again. And I feel like the comic gave her and I feel like the series gave her the justice she needed when the comic was still like the most thing we knew about Ramona. Of course, she's not a good example, but neither completely a bad person or a bad partner. We knew she cared at some point of her exes. We knew she wanted to start a new life with Scott and finally letting all of her past go and remembering herself, who she really is, and her value as a person. Letting everything just slip out of her. Also, that she really needed herself to care about everything around her and more of herself, really, and ask herself, what did I do? Did this actually made something bad? What was the reaction of other people? Did I hurt them? What do I have to say? And that kind of things. Actually, I felt like that was pretty good. And I think the series really made a good effect on people, making us know how much change they did, both Ramona and Scott. Letting us know that old Scott was just a version of him, and where he was left and almost divorced by Ramona because of his actions. He fell so hard into her that after time he started putting every drop of hard feelings to start just preparing for revenge after he saw how Scott really tried and fought to get Ramona even if the world was collapsing. With Knives in this part, we also see how development really worked out very well for her, and we see her grow out of Scott, realizing she of course loved him to death, but his disappearance helped her to know herself more and get into music with Sex Bomb as a support for her, and even realizing she has new connections with people, with Kim and with the other guy. I forgot his name. But we can see the dynamic they have and how this really started to help her to become just like a butterfly and change everything of her in being who she liked, not being who Scott was seeing. She just became a new person, and I think that's awesome. I think the thing about making the character change and seeing how she started to grow and having more options and getting into new opportunities really builded her more as a person. Every character getting a nice ending, even Wallace. I think the series was such a nice thing to have, and I really liked how it turned out, having special scenes where we see Ramona with dye and painting her hair in her colors almost every episode. We see characters finally getting their experiences and own parts and showing off how even so they are exes of the same person, they can be friends and support each other and finding new things in life. With the movie, this was different. The concept was based on the comic, only we were given and taken a lot of content. One of my favorite examples is Lisa Miller. I feel like her character was good, but she didn't stick up for too long, and I think it was okay, but also could have been a mystery to see what will happen in the future if she appeared again. In the movie, we follow the same story, just now with the plus being Knives fighting more and even helping on the last fight with Gideon. We can see the ending of the door, but instead of jumping to it. We see how Scott and Ramona just walk to it. We see only 3 hairs of Ramona and the same hairstyle. We can see less information of Scott and Kim and Emby. But we get to see the differences, like Lucas Lee actually beating Scott to death, but dying the same way that in the comic. And actually, this happened differently because in the comic, Lucas only told him he wouldn't fight for Ramona. He was just like bored at that point, and he wasn't even interested in coming back or even fighting for her. Like, he was just like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to join the evil exes. I guess that's all I have now. The movie showed us a mysterious Ramona and a more insecure Scott and his decisions, telling us more or about how he was feeling worried about how Ramona acted for herself, not waiting for a response from anybody and not feeling like, oh, if I do this, will people actually like feel like she was just like a free tiger in the like wildlife and just being whatever she wanted to be, and Scott being like, oh heck, why did I get in here? Like, oh shit. Oh. Okay. Keep painting your hair, dear. He looks amazing on you. Even so, he really was much more impactful for a lot of people and becoming a good person later on as he learns and talks with knives again and learning the power of self-love finally after a long time. I think the Tree media was amazing to read and watch, but definitely my favorite one was the series. I think they made a great job portraying the characters and making people more interested in knowing what was coming next for all of them and what happened in the past with them, with Ramona, the interactions they all had, and how they each one of them worked together and how they come to fight for what they really wanted at the end of the day, which it wasn't Ramona, but it was their own things. Just like Todd, he finally started his own life and he was being with companion, which it was Roxy, helping him and giving him motivation to become vegan again and work out after being depressed after Wallace left him completely. And for example, Matthew Patel taking over Gideon completely and having all of the power of just all the money and everything, using it for what he really liked, making musicals and doing what really his heart was feeling. Like, that's amazing. Keep doing it, King. And Gideon finally getting to actually someone that likes him and also supports him being evil or whatever he really wanted to be with Julie Powers. It was amazing. Also, I think they really make a cute couple after all. And also just like Straight with Knives and Sex Bomb being together, all of them, I think it was just amazing. It was so good. There are some people who have like more opinions on like, oh wait, they could have like done this better or like that kind of stuff. I think it's okay, actually, like giving opinions on it, it's okay. Obviously nothing is perfect in life. There are some mistakes people make, and of course it's just like, it's just a series for entertaining people. It's just that really it wasn't that much of finding it, but I think it was actually pretty good. I really liked it. I think it was amazing. So this is all my thoughts and just a small analysis on Scott Pilgrim. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you around again for more videos of mine. I really hope you just like the video and subscribe, and if you really want and if you're really into it, you can comment something, and that's all. So yeah, thank you so much for sticking up here. My name is Jeremy, and have a great day.